Speaking Myanmar, lessons for English-speaking learners, the because particles. In this lesson, we'll discuss the particles that mean because, and yes, there are two of them. The sentence order is once again different in the Myanmar language, and you'll learn where it all goes. I'll also teach you how to know which because particle to use. They're not interchangeable. Here are the two particles then for because. The first is pronounced lo, and the second, jaun. So they both finish with that short, creaky tone sound. Now let's look at an example of a because sentence. I went to the doctor because I was sick. And that's how we would normally say it in English. So there are two basic parts to that sentence. The first, it's what I did. I went to the doctor. The second, the reason I did it, because I was sick. But in the Myanmar language, the order is reversed. Because I was sick, I went to the doctor. And you could actually say it that way in English, but you probably wouldn't. You're accustomed to putting the because part of a sentence last. Now let's look at another sentence using because. He's worried because of this news. Once again, let's reverse the order. Because of this news, he is worried. So that doesn't seem too difficult, but what follows might confuse you at first. These two sentences do not use the same particle, and in this lesson, I'm going to show you why and which particle to use. This is the first particle I'll discuss, lo. I'm going to use this particle with our first sentence. Now I've already reversed the order, so the sentence is, because I was sick, I went to the doctor. In Myanmar, you would say, Jino pyane lo seawansi dwagere. Now, to help you understand the structure of this, I've actually transliterated this statement. It would be I, sick because Dr. 2 went. So you're able to see that this particular particle, the lo particle, comes at the end of that phrase, the because phrase. That's where it's placed. The second particle is pronounced jaun. Let's look at how it's used in a sentence. Because of this news, he is worried. In Myanmar, di ding jaun tu se pure. Literally it means, this news because he worries. Now once again, the particle comes at the end of that first phrase. But the question is, why did we have to use a different particle? What's the difference? Look again at our first sentence. I went to the doctor because I was sick. Reversing the order, what's the reason for going to the doctor? It's this phrase here, because I was sick. Now, that's an adjective phrase, to be sick. Now remember, verbs and adjectives are usually treated the same way in grammar. So whenever a verb or an adjective is the reason, the particle will be lo. So now let's look at the second sentence. He's worried because of this news. Reversing the order once again, what's the reason he's worried? Because of this news, and that's a noun, a thing. That's the reason for his worry. So whenever a noun or pronoun is the reason, the particle will be jaun. Now let's try it out. In this exercise, I'm going to show you 5 sentences that use the word because. For each sentence, try to decide which particle you should use, lo or jaun. So here's the first. I went to bed because I was tired. Which particle do you think you should use? The answer is lo, because this is an adjective phrase. Let's look at the second sentence. We may have problems because of a bad decision. Now, which particle should we use? If you selected this one, jaun, you're correct. And that's because a bad decision is a thing. That's a noun. So this is the particle we would use. Our third sentence, he is unable to go because of health problems. Once again, we're going to use jaun. And that's because health problems are a thing, a noun. Let's look at our fourth sentence. I ate a snack because I was hungry. Now, which particle will you use? Lo. And that's because being hungry is an adjective. Our last sentence then, we may feel inferior because of our background. What's the reason here? It's our background. That's a thing, a noun, so we would use the jaun particle. Now I know that in each sentence where a noun determines that jaun be used, the English sentence uses the phrase because of, and sometimes that's a clue that jaun should be used, but not always the case. Better to stick with this noun adjective verb rule of use. Now then, one word of caution. Now you have to remember that in every language there's more than one way to say things. Let's look at an example of a sentence we've already used that could use either particle. He is unable to go because of poor health. We could say, Tuga jamaye pyarana jaun matwa naing bu. Now we're using health problems as the reason he cannot go. Therefore, we'd use the jaun particle because health problems is a thing, a noun. However, we could also say, Tuga jamaye makaon lo matwa naing bu. Now we're saying because his health is not good, he can't go. And in that case, we're using an adjective. We're saying the same thing, we're just saying a little different way, and that's going to dictate which particular particle we use. So really the key in determining which particle to use is knowing whether you're using a noun or a verb or adjective as the reason. In the way of review then, these two particles, lo and jaun, both mean because. The because clause comes first in the sentence, unlike English. Lastly, to decide which particle to use, the lo particle is used with verbs or adjectives, and the jaun particle is used with nouns and pronouns. That finishes this lesson.